Hello and thanks for joining me for something a little bit different for my channel today. So normally the type of content I put out is gaming videos. I am an Australian and only 0.04% of my viewers are actually Australian. The vast majority of my viewers are American, and then the rest are from all over the world, from places like Estonia, Poland, Denmark, South Africa, the UK, all over the world. And so typically when I'm doing my gaming videos, I will tone down a lot of my natural Aussie slang and Aussie terminology so that my audience can understand me in normal everyday English. But so we're going to go over some Aussie terminology today. And before I go ahead, big shout out to Dixie Rec for becoming a member of my channel here. And if you haven't seen Dixie's channel, if you're into Project Zomboid, then definitely go out and check some of his live streams. Extremely funny guy from the UK. Some crazy streams that he does. So go check him out. Thank you very much, Dixie. Really appreciate the support. So let's go ahead and learn a little bit about some local Aussie English. So this is not to be confused with the native languages of the country. I would reserve that word for the Indigenous, Aboriginal, First Nations people of the country. By themselves, they have 250 tribal languages, including about 800 dialects. The rest of the country is vastly multicultural, with a grand total of over 300 languages spoken here all up. And aside from English, the most popular of those spoken here are Mandarin, Arabic, Vietnamese, Cantonese, Punjabi, Greek and Italian, none of which I speak. So I'm a third generation Australian. It means I was born here. My parents, or at least one of them, was born here. My grandparents, or at least one of them, was born here. And that means I was raised here. I went to school here. And at school here we learn the Queen's English from England, because we are an English colony from back in the day, and we are a sovereign state of England. So the schools teach us the Queen's English, but we then put our own twists on it outside of school. So my great-grandfather was brought here as an indentured servant, which basically means that he was somebody's property and he had the opportunity to work his ass off and buy his freedom. So just a bit of history about myself. Pretty much everybody here in this country, except for the Indigenous population, everyone else is either an immigrant or a descendant of an immigrant. That's why we're so vastly multicultural. Lately though, there have been a lot of newer immigrants that come in and they don't mingle with the locals. They can't be stuffed learning English. They don't respect our local cultures or our local laws, which is really sad to see. It's not the same Australia that I grew up in as a little kid. We allow almost anybody in here, and we let you keep your culture, we let you keep speaking your natural language, we let you practice whatever religious practices you have in your own home. We respect your right to do that, but you know, it's got to come back a little bit, and you've got to respect the local cultures that are already here. So immigrants like this, they might be Australian citizens, for sure, legally and on paper, but they will never ever be true blue Aussies. So true blue is an Australian term, and true blue basically means truly Australian. That's in heart, mind, soul and attitude. Doesn't matter where you come from, what colour your skin is, what your religious beliefs are, what other languages you speak at home. None of that matters. We'll accept you, but you've got to mingle with us. You've got to become one with our nation, with our culture. You can keep your own cultures, but you've got to embrace ours as well. Learn the language, mix in with us and not stick to your own kind. That's the only way that you're going to become a true blue Aussie. Just my observation, not going to go any further into that without getting too political, but moving on, I'm going to go over a term called ochre. So ochre is a word that we would use to describe somebody who speaks with a broad Aussie accent. It's a rather old school Aussie term. You don't really hear it a lot these days, but as an example there we have Hogs there, who a lot of you might recognise as Crocodile Dundee. He would be considered pretty ochre, but at the end of the day he is just an actor. Yes, he is ochre, but he also spread a bit of misrepresentation around, leading a lot of people around the world to think that we all wrestle crocodiles in our backyards. We do not. Steve Irwin did, legend that guy, but no, we don't. He's also said a few things that were written for foreign audiences to be able to understand, that are not truly Australian but have an Australian twang on them, such as chuck another shrimp on the barbie. That was a line written for him for an advertisement overseas. Barbie is short for barbecue, and we do chuck stuff on the barbie, but we do not chuck shrimp on the barbie. I've never seen anybody chuck a shrimp on the barbie. It's not shrimp, we have prawns, and even then I don't recall, in almost 50 years of my life here, that I've ever seen anybody chuck a prawn or anything remotely shrimp-like on a barbie. But anyway, so an ochre Australian typically will also use a lot of Aussie slang, just in their everyday speech naturally, and they also tend to swear a lot. So, moving on to the word Aussie. Yeah, this is one that a lot of Americans tend to get wrong. And it's not your fault. It's just, you're reading it and you might think, well, that's how it's pronounced. Well, a lot of Americans will say Aussie. That's not how you pronounce it. So I'm here to clear it up for you guys and teach you how to pronounce it properly. So, when I hear somebody come up to me and call me an Aussie, it gives me that same sort of feeling, when you go to shake somebody's hand and you have a nice firm handshake, but the handshake that you receive in return is like a limp, dead fish handshake. That's kind of how it makes me feel when somebody says, "Oh, you're an Aussie?" No, well, I'm not an Aussie. I am an Aussie. That's how you pronounce it, Aussie. Just like Ozzy Osbourne. If you don't know who Ozzy Osbourne is, he is not an Aussie, but that's his name. If you don't know who he is, then I highly recommend that you go and listen to some real music. Apart from his solo stuff, he was also the lead vocalist in Black Sabbath. Just look up on Google the Godfather of Metal and you should find Aussie. But anyway, moving on, we have Oz, which is just shorthand for Oz, and we do pronounce both of those there with a Z. and Z is another Australian term. Not sure about other places around the world, but in America that would be a Z. So you guys would say XYZ, we say XYZ. So Oz obviously just means Australia. Now when we say Australia, we pronounce it with an S. Don't ask me why that is, just the way it is. But Oz is Oz, and Aussie is Aussie. And hence the Oz at the start of my YouTube channel name, Oz Gamer. Basically just means I'm a gamer in Oz. So now we have Down Under, and that is just a nickname given to Australia. All it means, Down Under just means Australia. And that's because we're so far south of the equator. Now I've got GDU on the end of my channel name. That's just my own acronym, which just stands for Gaming Down Under. There's my channel name there. And that is going to do it for this episode. So if you did enjoy this video, please leave me a like or a comment down below. Feel free to ask any questions. If you'd like to support the channel, I do have memberships available where you could drop me a super thanks. I'd really appreciate it. And if you'd like to see more, then hit the subscribe button. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.